The National Collegiate Athletic Association is a nonprofit organization aimed at regulating, organizing, and governing the athletic programs of over 1,000 universities and colleges across the United States. One of the most controversial aspects of the NCAA is its essentially free rein and unchecked power to establish rules, assess misconduct, and hand out punishments. In 2012, the NCAA enacted sanctions against Penn State, which has been the subject of much controversy. The origins of these sanctions can be found in the uncovering of the Jerry Sandusky scandal. During the middle of the 2011 Penn State football season, news broke out about Jerry Sandusky, the former and well-respected assistant football coach, which shook Penn State and the nation as a whole.
Jerry Sandusky.
Jerry Sandusky.
Jerry Sandusky.
Jerry Sandusky.
Jerry Sandusky.
Jerry Sandusky. It's
Jerry Sandusky.
Following a grand jury investigation, Sandusky was accused of sexually assaulting several underage boys. Several days after Sandusky's arrest, head football coach Joe Paterno and university president Graham Spanier were fired, while athletic director Tim Curley and senior vice president for finance and business Gary Schultz resigned from their positions. Jerry Sandusky was arrested, trialed, and found guilty of 45 of 48 counts of sexual abuse. Though Sandusky's crimes were terrible in their own right, most of the focus surrounding the NCAA sanctions stems from the alleged cover-up and negligence of prominent Penn State leaders outlined in the Free Report. The Free Report was an independent investigation commissioned by the Penn State Board of Trustees. The investigation began in November of 2011 and lasted until Free revealed the findings in July of 2012. The Free Report found that Penn State leaders had actively concealed their knowledge of Sandusky's behavior in order to protect the reputation of the school.
In order to avoid the consequences of bad publicity, the most powerful leaders at Penn State University, Mr. Spanier, Schultz, Paterno, and Curley, repeatedly concealed facts relating to Sandusky's child abuse from the authorities, the Board of Trustees, the Penn State community, and the public at large.
In his report, Free heavily referenced the 2001 incident where then postgraduate assistant coach Mike McQueary reported Sandusky sexually engaging with a boy, to Paterno, who then reported to higher-ranked school officials, who subsequently did essentially nothing as evidence to the negligence and attempts to cover up Sandusky's actions. Penn State accepted all the findings of the Free Report quickly and without any dispute. The Free Report has been deemed deeply flawed by a number of people. Joe Paterno's family conducted their own review, the Paterno Report. Overall, the Paterno Report believes the Free Report was a, quote, rush to injustice, and cites damning conclusions based on incomplete information, particularly stressing that Joe Paterno was deceived by Jerry Sandusky and did not partake in a cover-up. Joe Ziegler is another to criticize the Free Report. He contends that much of their findings relied on the 2001 shower incident witnessed by Mike McQueary, which is an incident Jerry Sandusky was not found guilty of sexual abuse, and the victim himself has come out to declare that Sandusky did not abuse him. A final, more general criticism is that the Free Report outwardly condemns the active cover-up of Schultz, Curley, and Spanier, despite the fact that these men have yet to be given a verdict in the court of law for their alleged crimes. Some controversy of the NCAA sanctions stems from the NCAA acceptance of the Free Report without conducting their own investigation. Normal NCAA protocol calls for the NCAA to conduct an investigation. However, the organization cited this matter as being unprecedented and used exceptional manners in handling the case. Citing Penn State's Board of Trustees' full acceptance of the findings of the Free Report, the NCAA decided not to conduct its own investigation, believing that it would be, quote, duplicative and unnecessary. The NCAA cites institutional integrity failure and a, quote, football-first culture found in the Free Report as reasons to why it had authority to impose sanctions. There are many questions regarding the NCAA rights and authority to impose such sanctions. Many view the Sandusky scandal as a criminal act beyond NCAA jurisdiction. The sanction placed by the NCAA turned out to not only affect the Penn State football program, but also the student athletes themselves. The NCAA fined the university a whopping $60 million over 5 years. The university is put on a 5-year probation period in which an integrity monitor must overlook Penn State's activities to ensure they are abiding by the NCAA's constitution, as well as adopting all of the recommendations given by the Free Report. Penn State has also been stripped of its wins in football games from 1998 to 2011. More closely affecting the student athletes is Penn State's 4-year ban to participate in bowl games during its postseason, as well as the football program's 4-year reduction of grants and aid to athletes. Athletes were also allowed to transfer to play for other schools without fear of being penalized in any way. These are the main sanctions placed on the football program, but a corrective component determined by the NCAA also gave the university a few more rules to abide by. The university has continued to abide by all 119 recommendations given by the Free Report, as well as the NCAA's sanctions. These sanctions were some of the most severe sanctions ever issued. It was clear that the NCAA was trying to send a message to the rest of the country and make an example out of Penn State. However, the organization has recently announced that it will reduce the sanctions for the future, which is unprecedented because it has never reduced a penalty.
The NCAA says Penn State has shown a strong commitment to fulfilling the recommendations made in the Free Report. By 2016, Penn State will have all of their scholarships restored, and they could even have their 4-year bowl ban reduced in the near future.
Others interpret the reduction in sanctions as an indication that the NCAA was too harsh in its original sentencing of sanctions. The question still remains as to whether Penn State deserved the shockingly severe sanctions. Essentially, this controversy stems from whether the NCAA had the power to enforce such sanctions, whether the sanctions were based on a valid report, and whether the sanctions themselves were too severe. The main argument against the sanctions is that the entire football team, a university, as well as a student body, were being punished for the actions of a few individuals. These people claim that those who broke the law and policy have already been punished, so the university should not suffer so dearly. On the other hand, supporters of the sanctions claim that the severity is necessary because it is the only way that things will change in a football-minded school. The reputation of Penn State's athletics was valued more than the well-being of the victims. Therefore, in order to prevent this from ever happening again, harsh sanctions were necessary.